just dig into you, just open you up, spread you wide.
Let's do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to, I think this is the sixth episode of the Standout, where I interview high level entrepreneurs with the goal of making entrepreneurs human. We're going to talk about lifestyle. We're going to talk about business. We're going to talk about relationships and all the things that make business life. And I'm here with a very, very good friend of mine. This is just a really solid guy. This is somebody that I'm just really honestly proud to call my friend. He's incredible in business. He's incredible with his relationships, and he's just somebody who's always moving fast. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Rafa Loza. What's up, dude?
Hey, buddy. Thanks, man. That means a lot. I appreciate you. Really, really means a lot. Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks for having me on the show, dude. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to dive in and have a good conversation with you. It's always fun when we catch up. I always have a good time talking to you.
but dude, honestly, we were just talking a little bit offline about some of the lifestyle changes that you're making for 2024 and some of the things that you're looking to implement just to get more out of life, which again, this is why we do this podcast. Talk to me about some of the lifestyle changes that you made just recently, and then we'll dive a little bit into your story.
So every year I try to set some new goals to do, and usually some of them comes either health related, business related, or financial related. And this year, towards the end of 2023, going into 2024, this year in 2024, my big thing is going to be health and fitness and lifestyle. And so I want to make a lot of changes going into 2024 for life, relationship wise, and just overall health wise. And the biggest one was the health one. And so I actually saw that Netflix documentary. I've always watched Netflix documentaries, which always makes me go vegan. So I saw a Netflix documentary again,
It's a big
and I decided, hey, you know what? I used to be vegan, so I was like, let's just give it a shot again. And I was like, well, I love a good steak. I can't go wrong with a good steak, but I hate eating crappy steaks or like crappy food, right? Like I know the chicken industry is really bad. I know the meat industry is really bad. I'm all about the whole animal health stuff. Like I love animals, things like that, animal life. So watching these Netflix kind of opens up your eyes. I know they're one-sided documentaries. No, nobody judge me on this episode, right? And be like, this asshole, what is he talking about? But everybody knows, right? Like the chickens are crammed up, in little two by 2 foot spaces, right? Or not even, and the cows are being slaughtered and it's killing the planet. Obviously, the CO2 emissions from the cow farm. Anyway, so the reason why I decided to do it was because I saw that documentary and because I know how poorly processed the foods are. Unless you're eating direct to farm, or like, which is what I actually do. I order direct to farm now. Luckily, I have the financial freedom to be able to afford a little bit of a more expensive way of living and a way of eating because direct to farm is expensive. Let's not shy on that part.
right.
But I can order these like direct to farm boxes that come to my house with relatively healthy food. And so in my head, I was eating every single day was like meat for a while. When I started going back to eating meat, it was like barbecues on the weekend. And so started gaining a ton of weight and then started getting unhealthy. And so at the end of last year, I ended up working with a buddy of mine where we did a full blood panel and we found a few things that were wrong with me. I was low on vitamin D. I had really high protein count that was causing cardiovascular issues, potential for a heart attack in the future. I had to lay off the protein intake, lay off some of the processed foods. All around, I want to be healthy, right? And I've been doing a lot of research on the life longevity thing. So I've been reading a lot of the books with, Dr. David Sinclair and just a bunch of other guys, the Tony Robbins Life Force books that he just brought out. It's just kind of a recap of everything. So I was like, hey, you know what? I want to live a long time. Everybody in my family has died around 65, like everybody, right? And so I don't want to be that guy at 65 who's got heart issues, who's fat and overweight and has no energy to do anything. So now that I'm still
Mm.
young and again able to afford and at least spend a little bit more money on my health, I'm gonna do so. And so I said, hey, I don't want to stop eating, going back to my point here, I don't want to stop eating meat, but I don't want to consume it every day. I want to get the benefits of the plant-based lifestyle. And listen, there's thousands now, hundreds and thousands of tests out there that show that when you're plant-based, the levels of your health-wise, how they just escalate like into a healthier overall lifestyle, more energy, right? More libido, you lose weight, you're more fit, you look good. Overall, you have more energy. And so I was like, this is a no-brainer. I'm addicted to food, but I'm not addicted to meat and to eating like crappy food, right? I have a huge sweet tooth, but it's not hard for me to be like, hey, today I'm not going to eat that, right? And then I made a goal. So I said my goals for 2024 are going to be I'm only going to eat or consume animal products 52 times this year, which amounts to once a week. So the rest is going to be plant-based. But I'm going to be intentional about that plant-based because you can also eat very unhealthy plant-based food.
Right. Yes, you can.
So a part of this nutritionist that I hired, and you know him, his name Fraser Bailey. I'm working with him, and so he gave me a meal plan of like these like grain bowls, right? And so you get like all like you get the grains, the greens, it's eat the rainbow basically. And so eat that every day, and it's like I'm eating healthy, clean, plant-based food that makes me feel more energetic. I go to sleep early, I wake up early. I'm on some supplements to help out with like the vitamin D and stuff like that. And so I was like, hey, it's not hard for me to go. I don't want to eat meat. So I just set a goal and it's going to be challenging. And I like to set challenging goals. So eat meat 52 times out of the year, which is once a week. Now, that's not meals, that's days. So I can eat meat as many times as I want in one day, but it's days. So 52 days, right? So I'm not that I'm going to go eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner and grill up a tomahawk each meal. You know what I mean? But
mukbang or whatever you call it, just a table
yeah.
full of ribs and steaks.
Just the full, what is it? The Brazilian steakhouses or what? Australian
Oh,
steakhouses or
Texas
whatever.
Day Brazil, favorite place.
Yeah, those things. So anyway, and along with it, I said, you know what? The whole goal is to the health and benefits. It's not just eating plant-based. How about I lay off the drinking as well? And so I said, you know what? I drink a lot when I go out and I'm at parties and events, and sometimes unnecessarily just to have a drink when I'm out at dinner. So I was like, let's set a goal, me and my girlfriend, where we're only going to drink 52 times a week as well. And so we did. So
52
now
times a year for the
a year.
52 times a week. We're actually flipping this thing on its head. We're going for it.
We're going downhill right there. And so we set several. So we're doing 52 times a year for alcohol and 52 times a year for animal product consumption. And then I got to work out 4 times a week, which amounts to 208 workouts this year. So I can do 6 in 1 week, 7 in 1 week, what doesn't matter. End of the year, I need to have 208 workouts in. And so that keeps me very aligned and something I can track. It makes it fun. I make a game out of the goal where I on my journal, I check off the day, I put the day in, and I have a box to fill. And by the end of the year, that box has to be filled, right? And so, and I get to track everything where I drink. So now, like, I have my journal says 1/1, New Year's Day. That's why I drink, right? 1/5. It was my brother's girlfriend's birthday party, so I had a drink. Things like that. And it's fun because now I can go back to and remember the good memories that I had on top of why I also drink. So I enjoy that. And so another one that I'm working on is I want to go to church 52 times a year. That's a big one for me. So it's every Sunday or at least once a week, just end up going to church. And we're just gonna be intentional about that one because I've been saying I'm gonna do it for the last 2 years. And I am religious. I don't go to church, right? I pray every single night without fail. I've prayed every single night for like the last 13 years, but I want to be intentional and actually put my foot forward and say, hey, let's just go into a church, check it out. If we like it, we keep coming back every Sunday. If not, we can jump around and see which one we like. And so that kind of gives us an overall roundup of what I want to work on this year in terms of health, fitness, and just faith as well. So anyway, that was long, but yeah.
No, dude, I love that because one of the things that's been on my mind as we enter into the new year is a big push. What's the push? What's the thing that wasn't working for us last year that we're going to implement this year and continuously pursue? And what I love about what you said, man, is I have 208 workouts that I need to complete this year. It wasn't, I'm going to work out 4 times a week and just leave it at that. You have a number to it, 208 times a year. So you've already planned from the 1st of January, the beginning of this year, all the way into the end of the year. Whereas where I feel a lot of people mess things up is they set a goal of, I want to lose X amount of pounds, or I want to do X amount of things, and they don't necessarily tie a number to it, and they don't extend it throughout the entire year. That's why New Year's resolutions fail so often, is because people say, I really got to make a change. I'm going to go to the gym and sign up for a 30-day membership. And when I was at the gym, I asked him how many people signed up for a 30-day membership and how many people signed up for a year, right? And obviously the amount of 30 days was way higher because people aren't ready to make that commitment and legit change their lifestyle, not just go on a diet. A diet has an expiration date, but a lifestyle change is something that I'm willing to commit to for a long period of time. So I love, dude, there's so much to unpack in there. Because you also talked about writing down why you were drinking. Hey, I drank this weekend because, and now we're living a life with super intentionality because like, I remember why I had a drink. You talked about going to church. The Bible talks about that too. You drink on special occasions. It doesn't turn its eye to drinking as long as you're not being a drunkard, but What is the intention behind it? What are we celebrating? Right? I feel so many people my age, our age, are out drinking, partying, and they have nothing to show for it. What do we
Yeah.
have to show for us going out and partying? We have done literally nothing, right? And that's how I was probably about 5 years ago. And I remember I emceed an event earlier in February of last year, and the people who put on the event made it completely plant-based, right? Completely plant-based event. There was no meat in sight, and the people lost their minds. They were they were like, I gotta go get a hamburger. I need some meat. I gotta get out of here. They would literally leave the event early so they could go and get a hamburger from a fast food place
Yeah.
and then they'd come back. That's an addiction. And we don't want to
Mhm.
admit it. That is, I need to have this, and you're not going to stop me from getting it. That's smoking a cigarette. That's having a drink. That is using hard drugs. That's whatever. This is an addiction. And man, I'm super proud of you for making that decision to get back to where you're feeling good. So, I mean,
Yeah, man.
we're about what, a week in, and how do you feel so far?
Really good, actually. It's funny that I didn't think about how fast we've gone. Number one, I've been super busy, but two, I work out at 6 a.m., so I don't have a choice but to go to sleep early and to wake up early. Therefore, I don't stay out. Like I went to a party, I went out for my brother's girlfriend's party, and I went to dinner with a buddy of mine prior to that, and then we went just, I can't not go, but it was like 11:30 and we're hanging out at the bar, and I just crashed, and I was like, I wasn't even drinking. I was like, hey, I gotta go. Like, say my birthday, happy birthday, and then we sang and I left. I went home and I woke up to the gym the next day and I felt great, dude. I mean, I feel awesome. Energy levels are high. I'm getting the rest I need. I'm tracking my sleep and I'm eating clean. Best part about it, dude, is I've tried so many good foods already. Like we've had Indian vegan food, right? Vegan food, Thai vegan food. I had vegan pho the other day. I mean, dude, that's what I like about it the most is I get to try foods that I normally wouldn't try. Had I just said, hey, let me get the chicken, the orange chicken, or let me get the beef pho, or let me get I don't know, the steak and vegetables. I get to try new foods, which I tried okra and I didn't even know what it was, and it was phenomenal. It was amazing.
Yeah.
So, I feel great, man. I love it. This is good stuff for me.
Dude, that's great. And you mentioned being in a place financially where you could afford to do these things. So,
Yeah.
dude, let's take it way back, man. I think that you have a really incredible story of how you started. And just to give the people a little bit of information on, dude, your main business is short-term rentals. Vacation
Mhm.
rentals seems like something you're transitioning into, but now you're looking at potentially buying businesses. And
Yeah.
one of the things I really like about how you operate your business, it's super relational based. You build relationships with good people and you want to do business with good people. So let's take it all the way back where you grew up in Santa Ana, California, right? That's where you grew up.
So I grew up in Orange County, actually, which is part of Santa Ana, as part of Orange County, but I grew up in Anaheim, so 5 miles up the street from Santa Ana. And then I lived in Santa Ana a little bit, and then I moved back to Anaheim, and then I went to Riverside. So it's been all Orange County, and I'm still in Santa Ana now. So yeah, I mean, what do you want to know? You want me to start like from
Yeah,
when I
dude,
was
tell us because I met you in the Legacy Family Mastermind with Tim Bratz. It's a commercial real estate mastermind. And when I learned about short-term rentals, you were the guy to go to in the group.
yeah.
And man, you've been crushing the game in that for a little bit. So tell us how you got started in short-term rentals. And also, we mentioned offline talking about the what's
Dead
that?
mouse heads,
The dead mouse helmets or
masks, yeah, helmets,
yeah,
yeah.
the masks. Yeah,
So
talk to us a little about those things.
I'll start with this. I've been an entrepreneur my whole life, right? It's just always been entrepreneurship. I've never wanted to work for someone. I hate taking orders from people. I like doing what I want, when I want, where I want, with who I want. Like literally, that's my entire thing. And so I don't like taking orders. And so therefore, I don't do well under a 9 to 5 environment where I have a boss tell me what to do. Now I'll do it if I need to. I'm just not for it. And I don't do well. Like I stress out in that environment. I panic. I just don't like having to go to someone like that. I like to be able to make my own decisions. And so taking it way back, my first job was when I was 11 years old. So I actually was born in Mexico. I don't know if you knew that, but I was born
I
in
did.
Mexico.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I came here when I was 6 years old, and been in Orange County my whole life. I've traveled a bunch lately, obviously, but my dad had his own business. And so I learned from him on how to be an entrepreneur and how to manage and how to run businesses. And so my first entrepreneurial business was when I was 11, running a catering truck washing company. And me and my brother would wash other people's catering trucks because my dad owned a bunch of catering trucks where he would manage. And so we did that for a while on the weekends. Then high school came and junior high and everything came. And so obviously you go back to school and then you do what everybody else in America does and you get a part-time job as a kid, right? And so I was working part-time. I think it was Stater Brothers was my first job. And then I went to Radio Shack for a little bit and I just couldn't do it. And so I did a bunch of different stuff in between. Well, fast forward, one Halloween when Deadmau5, the DJ, was super popular a couple years ago, maybe like 9, 10 years ago. We made one for Halloween, and I've always been crafty. I always do stuff with my hands. I'm very artistic. I can draw, I can paint, I can sculpt, I can make, and literally, if you put something in front of me, I can make it. I just need time to learn how to do it. And so I made a Deadmau5 helmet for a Halloween costume, and it was a hit. Everybody loved it. And so I put it up for sale on Craigslist, and dude, I got a bunch of hits, a bunch of hits. I put it up for $50. I ended up selling it for $350,
It's
and
a
I
heck of
ended
a
up
margin.
taking pre-orders from people to make them new ones at $350. So I just got smart with it. I was like, hey, somebody offered me $50. Someone goes, I go, hey, it's already sold. They go, how much do they offer you? 50? I'll give you 100. The next one's like, hey, someone just offered me 100. I'll give you 150. Hey, someone just offered me 150. I'll give you 200. It ended up selling for 350. And this thing was made out of paper mache, right? You're talking about a globe like this around my head that you put over your head, made out of paper mache with styrofoam ears, a little plastic cup eyes, and an LED underneath it. Super simple with the mesh mouth, with leggings, right? The mouth was leggings with over a mesh. And so there was nothing special about it, but I knew how to make it. And so I started, I was like, hey, I can make you one. Give me a couple days. Like, dude, yeah. All right, well, take a deposit. I would take 150 and then they pay me 150 when they picked it up. Bro, it ended up being so popular. I had a production line at my house. So I had people cutting the mouths on the paper mache helmets, cutting the ears out of styrofoam. I had someone spraying with glue, wrapping them with felt, and we just went down the lit line and we were just popping them out. I was probably doing, I don't know how many. I don't want to give a number out there, but we did quite a bit. And selling them for $350 and then started slowing down and I put them up on eBay and then it just took off all over the UK. People were buying them like crazy. And I did that for about, I don't know, 2 years. It was a big business. It turned out to be really good.
How old were you? How old were you at this time?
I don't know. I was definitely over 21 already. I think I was way 21 years, 22. No, maybe, yeah, I was like 21 years old, 22 years old. Yeah.
So you had already built out a team. Like you had
Yeah.
the team ready.
I
I
had a
mean, were
team already built out.
you were you paying your assembly line workers?
I was, yeah. I was like, hey, I'll give you guys, I don't even remember what I was paying, but I was paying them for a certain amount. Like I had friends coming over and just helping me, and I would just give them money. I think I would pay them like $100 or something for a couple that they did, or like they were there for a couple hours. I don't remember what I was paying. It was such a long time ago. But yeah, man, it took off, and then around obviously it started to die down. And had I known what I know about business, I probably would have invested all that money. Instead, I was blowing it on the weekends. As the guy just blowing money. I still do that, but I just make more of it now.
Yeah. Make more than you
I'm
can
more of
spend
like,
on.
I just got to make more. I don't want to be restrained to this is how I can spend. I want to make more so I can spend more.
Right.
But anyway, it got to a point where the actual DJ himself got into a lawsuit, I believe. I don't know the whole story with Disneyland. And so he copyrighted. And then I got a letter from his attorney saying, hey, cease and desist. You got to stop selling these things. We need to know what you're making. And I was like, hey, I don't know. I don't keep track. I do this for fun. Right. It's not like I didn't treat it as a business. It was just for fun where I would make money. I never thought about it in a business perspective, although it was. And so I shut it down. And so obviously I stopped making money there. And so I was working at a collection agency around that same time as well. And that was 1099. I would work my own hours whenever I wanted, go in, do some collections. And then over time, I learned the business. So I started my own collection agency, had my own office with own employees. I was managing, I think, 22 employees at that time. We were crushing it. It was doing really well.
Wow.
I had some rock star collectors in there. But the industry changed. It got really dark. A lot of people doing a lot of illegal shit. And so I decided to leave. And around that time was around 2016. That's when I went to my first actual 9 to 5 in probably 15 years. And
Okay. And really quick, so you were working as a collector at the time. Because you mentioned, you've always been an entrepreneur. What was that decision like? At what point were you like, okay, I'm working this, I can do this on my own, and I'm gonna talk to me about that process.
so it's funny talking about relationship based. My entire business has been relationship based. So I was working at a electronic recycling company prior to the collection agency. And I actually got this guy's, I made him the number one TV recycler in all of California. I put systems in place before I even knew what systems were. I hired people. It was crazy. He was the number one TV recycler in California. And then again, the industry changed, and the guy was just kind of a pain in the ass to work with. I never wanted to work with someone like that. And so I ended up leaving. We became friends, but he was also kind of too much of a very good person. And so I left. And that's when I went to the collection agency. And then I started from the ground up because my brother was working. He's like, dude, we're making bank. Come over here. And so I started learning the business. What happened about 4 years in, somebody, I guess I had a good impression on someone. And somebody was looking to open their own office. And they said, we need somebody to manage this office. And my name got thrown in the mix, which is how everything's happened in my entire life. It's crazy now that I think back. And somebody threw my name in the mix. And so they called me and we had a meeting. And I said, bro, I'm always the type of person that says, yeah, I'm in. Let's do it. They call me at a lunch and they're like, hey, we'd like for you to manage this office. We'll provide everything you need. You just need to bring the team and run the office. And they're like, can you do it? I was like, absolutely. I know how to do it. Yeah. Not knowing a single thing about managing, to be honest with you. I knew how to manage people, but not professionally like I know now, and how to treat a team and stuff like that. I just knew what I knew then. And so I ended up building this office for them. It lasted a year. I brought some friends of mine. To be frank, I screwed that up hard. Made some mistakes when I was young. The owner, nothing. So the owner caught me talking shit on him. I'll just say that now. And so it was a bad time. I was a young kid. I really regret that because he was a good dude. And so he got upset and he hired someone else to take my place. And so around that time, I got the opportunity to actually open my own shop. So in my head, I was like, well, okay, cool. Take back your spot and I'll open my own. And so that's what I did. And he took the office away from me. He gave it to this new guy. He asked me if I can teach the new guy how to run the business. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that for you. Like, you're crazy. But what I will do is I'm not going to take your employees, even though they were mine. I'll let them sit there. Right. If you want to keep them, you can keep them. And so I took off and I built my own office at that point. And then over time, that guy messed up the office. It shut down and everybody ended up coming back and working with me again. And so then I had my own office for about 4 years. And then it just got too much. I was just like, hey, I can't deal with this anymore. It's just, people constantly, it just drains you. It's just an energy drainer. And that's when I said, I got into some arguments with my brother over it, and it was just becoming a pain in the butt. And that's when I said, hey, I'm out. I need to find something else to do. At that point, I was trying to get into real estate also, but I didn't know much about it. Yeah. So that's when I ended up working at the casino graveyard shift, my first job in 15 years.
Gotcha. And was it because you mentioned you got in some arguments with your brother over, is it because you valued the relationship over the business itself? And like, on top of it already being an energy drainer, on top of it already being too much?
No, because it wasn't that bad. It wasn't like, oh, it's going to ruin my relationship with my brother. We were just always arguing.
Yeah.
We're just always arguing over dumb things. And I like things done a certain way, and he likes to do things his own way. And so I was like, this isn't working out. I don't want to deal with this headache. Dude, I'm very like, I don't want to deal with headaches.
Right.
At all. I don't deal with them. Like, so, I'd rather give up a really good deal than to have to deal with the headache. And so I just said, hey, I'm out. You guys do your own thing. I'm going to go find something else to do. I can't do this anymore. And to be honest, the business was already going down. A lot of regulation changes and stuff like that were happening. So I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm out.
And what you had mentioned earlier is thinking back on a lot of the opportunities that you've been given. Someone threw your hat in the ring, or someone threw your name in the ring.
Yeah.
And that just reminds me of like presenting yourself as somebody who gets it done always. Like, because if not, you would have never got those opportunities. If you decided to be slack, if you decided to, I'm having an off day, I'm not going to present myself to the best of my ability. When you present yourself at a high level, people want to work with you. People will be gravitated to you. When you're somebody who wants to avoid drama in order to just get the job done, man, that speaks volumes on the type of person that you are. But for anybody listening, it's like, we got to be that person, the best version of ourselves every single day, because opportunities will come from that. People will gravitate to us. Don't necessarily chase down opportunities, but be somebody who attracts great opportunities. And that's definitely something I'm learning from you right now.
I appreciate that. Sorry, go ahead.
No, please.
Yeah, the more I grow in business and the more I grow in relationships, I realize not everybody's made the same way. And I've always, in my head, I just always thought everybody was identical to me. I'm very hard on myself, but I'm very hard on other people that work with me and around me. I have a certain expectation of things that have to get done, and people see that. People know that, hey, like he's serious. Hey, he's gonna do what he says he's gonna do. And obviously it's not always, but I always come through on as much as I possibly can to the best of my ability, and people see that. And I think when people see that, it attracts a certain way of or a certain aspect of like people, the type of people that you want to be around. It's like,
Right.
okay, well, I want to work with someone who knows what they're doing, that can get it done, and that will promise and deliver. And so I think that's what attracts people to me. And I think that's why my name's always getting thrown around with other people. But the biggest thing is leading with value. I always try to just help as many people out as I can without asking for anything in return. I think that's been the biggest benefactor, or the biggest reason also for getting to where I'm at now.
Dude, that's huge, man. Because we're living in a world where it's like, how can I get something from this? How can I get something from this? I can open my Instagram right now to 10 cold messages of people saying, hey, man, I came across your page. I really like to help you out. They're wanting something. Instead of
Yeah.
leading with value, they're wanting to take.
Yep.
And dude, there's only so much, with as many times as we get hit up for things throughout the day, there's only so much that you can give out. But if you lead with value, hey, I already did the work on this. Here, you can have it. I don't need it. Or hey, you need some help. Hey, let's jump on a call. And you're definitely somebody who's done that. You jump on a call several times with me to talk about whatever it is that we needed to talk about. And I know you do it with so many other people. And when you just want to genuinely help people succeed, that is the key. That is the ticket to success coming your way, because you're now attracting opportunities. You're now bringing leads in, quote unquote leads, into your sphere of influence because you just wanted to help people.
Yeah, man. I mean, I try to be as helpful as I possibly can. That's my biggest thing.
And I think people have a negative connotation when it comes to entrepreneurs. Is entrepreneurs only care about the numbers, they care about stepping on people to get things done, they care about profits over people, and just not not genuinely caring about the people that they're in the foxhole with. Whereas this is what this show is about: is people who are good-hearted, good-natured, care about people, want to add value, but make money. A business built on good is way better than any other business. So that's
Yeah.
really cool. So you ended up quitting the agency, the cold calling, the collection agency, and then you moved into your first 9 to 5 graveyard shift and transition into what you're doing now.
Yeah, dude. So,
Talk to me about
yeah,
that.
my life was going in a very different direction before I hit that casino job. That casino job completely, when I tell you completely changed my life, it completely changed my life. 100%. That's like the catalyst of where my life went. It was supposed to go this way, and it just went boom to the right. You know what I mean? Like, it just different trajectory. I met a bunch of different people. I mean, I met my girlfriend there now, right? At the time, I didn't even have any interest of thinking she was gonna be my girlfriend. We're just friends. And I met a lot of friends there, but it was also a very dark industry. A lot of drinking, a lot of people do a lot of drugs there. Not the type of crew I wanted to be around. It was graveyard. We'd get out in the morning, and we'd go to the bar at 6 a.m. There was a bar that would actually stay open in the morning for the shift that got out at that time, because technically it's like our 5 p.m., right?
Right.
Can you hear my dog?
I
You hear the
heard him for a
squeaking?
second. He did
He's
something.
like, he's going crazy, dude. I'm sorry. If it
It
gets too
doesn't.
loud, let me know.
I can't hear him. I can't hear him
Okay.
right
Yeah, we bought him a little toy and he's going nuts for it. Anyway,
now.
you can crop that out, right?
Cut what out?
Me asking you about my dog, changing the
No, dude. I just
conversation.
upload him raw, baby.
Oh, all
I'm
right. We're
just
gonna know
kidding. No, you're good, man. I'll cut it out.
So it doesn't matter to me. I don't really care. I just don't want to be unprofessional on your show here. And so anyway, so it was a dark industry, and I always knew I wanted to do something else. Like, that wasn't going to be where I was going, right? But I needed to make a living. I needed to make money. So around that time, I started doing all the research of actual real estate, which is what I always wanted to do. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and it just clicked in my head, and I was like, wait a second. I was like, I'm doing life wrong, right? And so
Absolutely.
up to that point, it was like I would just work to make enough to get me through. That was my entire life. I'm just making money to get through the way I want to live. If I made $100, I would live off $100 and sleep on my brother's couch, right? If I made 10,000 bucks, I would spend 10,000 bucks and live it up that month. That's just the way I was living. Never really cared about having structure. And so it set a lot of things in order for me. I was working, I was living with my ex at the time, working graveyard, barely cutting the rent. And so I started learning about real estate, and that's when I said, hey, you know what? I'm going to get into this. I'm going to give it a shot. And around that time, I mean, the rest is history. I don't know if you want me to go into that, but I learned about short-term rentals, and I decided to get into short-term rental arbitrage so I can generate cash flow. And fast forward to today, now I'm buying vacation rentals and hotels. And now my goal for 2024 is to actually buy a business. That's what I'm getting into now. So I skipped a lot in the from the casino to today. There's a lot
Yeah.
there. But I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know if you want me to go into that story
Dude,
or your audience
let's
wants to hear it.
unpack it just a little bit. So
Okay.
I want people to understand how you went from the 9 to 5 to now I'm not working a 9 to 5 and I'm a real estate investor. Like, talk to me about that journey from
Yeah.
corporate to now I'm a real estate investor.
So during working the graveyard shift, I decided, hey, it's time to get serious about life, right? Again, it was a lot of drinking, a lot of weekends of just like doing nothing. And so I was like, it's time to get serious again. Let's get back on the horse here and get going, or back on the saddle, whatever that term is. And so I decided, hey, here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna buy a property, I'm gonna put a tenant, and I'm gonna be rich. And that was the idea. And then Southern California, the properties are 400 grand, and you need another 50, 60K just for the down payment, and then you get a negative cash flow. And so I was like, well, that's a dream
Oh,
crusher.
sick. I'm gonna be
So I'm like, all right, well, all these gurus are talking about wholesaling, so I'm gonna become a wholesaler. And so I started listening to Bigger Pockets, and I'm trying to learn flipping and wholesaling. And in my head, it's just like this big dragon I gotta slay, right? This big thing I gotta overcome. And now I'm like, wow, that's the stupidest thing ever. Like, it's so easy, right? But back not knowing anything from beginning, I started doing research on how I can actually cash flow. The goal was to get properties to supplement my income so that I didn't have to work. I want to wake up and be, 60 years old and sipping margaritas on the beach. And so because it's the first I get a fat paycheck. And so that's the goal. That's still the goal. And so, except I want to have fun doing it now. I want to have fun doing it. I don't want to just do it just to do it. And so anyway, I came across short-term rentals, and I found out a couple of guys that were driving like some Ferrari or something. And my ex was like, yeah, they rent Airbnbs on apartments. And we're like, well, what do you mean? They can do that? And I was like, wait a second. I was like, I know Airbnb. I know short-term rentals. I was like, wait, I don't need to buy the house to make these things run.
in the
And so
light
I was like,
bulb.
wait, yeah, light bulb went off. I was like, wait, I can rent an apartment complex, and I can put furniture in it, and I can put it on Airbnb and make profit on the rent that I'm paying. Why isn't anybody doing this? And so I started doing a bunch of research. I found a guy that was teaching systems and processes on how to do that. And that's when I actually had my first like eye-opening experience with systems and processes. I've been doing it my whole life. I just never knew what it was, or legitimately. And so I started implementing, systems and processes for the business. I opened up my first 2-bedroom apartment. At that point, I think I had about 5 grand left to my name. I was still working the graveyard shift, barely making it by. And I said, hey, we're gonna give this a shot. So I put my 5 grand for the first month's rent and the first month's deposit on a 2-bedroom apartment. And this building was like in the hood, but it was being remodeled, the whole thing. It was 120 units and 60 something units were vacant. So I asked and they said yes. And so I called my brother. He lets me borrow a $9,000 credit card, and I use it all to furnish the entire apartment. The first 2 weeks of me going live, I make back the 5 grand in revenue. The first month of me being live, I make $6,000 in profit. And I was like, holy crap. I was like, I just made 6 grand in 1 month when I was going to spend 70, and all I spent was 9,000 on a credit card. I was like, I was about to spend $60,000 that I didn't even have on a house that was going to negative cash flow. I was like,
That's
I'm going all
crazy.
in on, yeah, I was like, it was huge. I was like, I'm going all in on this business. Fast forward 9 months later, I had 18 units in one building, 23 by the end of the year in 2 different buildings. And I was living large, man. I was cash flowing like crazy. I was enjoying myself, debt free. I just put my feet up and I kicked back playing PlayStation. I got addicted to Call of Duty for a while. I mean, I was like literally, in my mind, I'm crushing life. Everybody around me is doing nothing compared to what I'm doing, right?
Right.
And so then COVID hits, and I went from 37,000 projected revenue to $0 in revenue for that month of March. And I was like, oh shit, how am I going to pay the rents? And so we went into crisis mode, right? We ended up negotiating paying percentage of rents based on revenue that was brought in. We negotiated defer rent on a lot of places, and I transitioned to a lot of midterm rentals. That was my actual introduction to midterm rentals. I was running 23 units, all midterm rentals, and then negotiating a deferred rent payment. And then when things started turning around, the business just took off. And
Mm,
as it was taking off, the owner that I was in the building with those 18, he sold the building. A lot of the tenants didn't pay, and so he couldn't cover his note. And so he ended up selling the building off. And the new owner was like, hey, we don't want you here. We want you out. And so I was like, why? And he's like, well, you owe a bunch of money. I was like, but I'm paying you. He's like, yeah, but there's 60, dude, listen to this. When I got into this building, there was me into this 120 unit building running one short-term rental. By the time this happened, this guy allowed 67, 68 short-term rentals in that building, and nobody but me was paying rent. Nobody but me. So he kicked everybody out. And so I went with them. He's like, nobody's paying, and we don't want any short-term rentals in the building. He's like, I'll let you off on any deferred rent that you owe. I walked away with, I think, 160K worth of debt. So he technically paid me to leave, and he let me stay for a whole month. I put all my furniture in storage, and I was like, you know what? I don't want to do short-term rentals anymore. I'm done with that industry. And so I'm going to fix and flip properties. And so I started doing research on how to do the wholesale, dude. I drove up and down. I drove up and down prop neighborhoods looking for the beat up property, doing the, note taking and pulling the list, everything. And I was like, this fucking sucks. I hate this. It's not fun. And
A
so I went
lot
to,
more work.
dude, I was like, this is terrible. And so I went to a networking event, my first actual, like, true networking event. And this guy was like, hey, dude, if you're good at something, stick to it. What the hell are you doing? I was like, you're right. He didn't even tell me that. Like, that's what resonated. Like, that's what clicked in my head.
Right.
So I was like, I'm really good at short-term rentals. I have all this furniture. I'm great at relationships. So I was like, I'm going to do this all over again. And so I made a few phone calls. I made a few appointments. And from March 2021 to today, I've built out 90 something, probably over 100 short-term rentals, all relationship based. And then over in 2023, I just went full throttle purchasing. Bought our first hotel as a partnership with Nick and Austin, as you know. Bought a 7-unit with them as well. I bought a cabin in the Smokies, properties in Milwaukee. I did a fix and flip, long distance fix and flip. Made 100 grand off of that, which was awesome. I bought 6 properties, all creative finance, all with partners out in Joshua Tree, and I got 4 more in the pipeline. And I bought a 40-acre ranch, as you know, and now 2024, here we are, man. All I'm focusing is now I'm going to buy a business and continue to grow the short-term rental thing. Right now, I think I don't even know how many short-term rentals I have. I think we're at 97 or something now, maybe more.
That is insane.
Yeah.
And for people who are listening, it's like, oh yeah, and because we didn't even really get into the details of what really went down. Like, okay, well, let's just kind of unpack it a little bit. Because I don't want people to listen and be like, oh, well, it only worked out for him. Because there's some tenacity. There's a lot of tenacity in there. There's a lot of grit to say that, one, I got to figure out how to make money here. As everyone around me is panicking. Everyone around me is throwing in the towel during COVID, crossing their arms and saying, well, I can't do anything about this and therefore I won't. What was going on in your mind, dude?
So, it's funny because before I got into the networking things and the relationships, which I wanted to touch on a little bit, I kind of skipped that part too. But a mentor of mine, that the guy that I told you taught me the business and systems thing, that taught me a little bit more about like processes and how to automate short-term rentals. I got him a bunch of units in a building that I was in. Got him, I think, like, I don't know, 30 something units. And so he was in that building with the same problem I was having. So we got together, we put our heads together, and then that's when we decided, hey, let's ask for the deferment of rent and let's ask for the percentage of payment. And so luckily enough, we built a really good relationship. I knew the owners firsthand, right? I'm the one that got us the buildings, but he knew real estate a lot more than I did back then. And so both of us together with another guy, a partner of him at the time, we called the owners and we're like, hey, this is what we're going to do. And so they allowed it. They're like, yeah, we'll work something out with you guys. We don't want to be completely out. I was like, hey, either you allow this or you guys take everything back and you guys don't get any rent at all. That's it. There's no choice. I have nothing. You can come after me legally if you want, but I have nothing. And so we did that. But the problem is I had to figure out how to stay afloat. There were still no reservations coming. Nobody was traveling. And that's when I pivoted to, wait, what are people traveling for? And it was all the medical professionals because of COVID and people that were quarantining. And that's what I pivoted to. I rented to 30-day minimums to everybody and anybody who needed a place to stay during quarantine, or because they needed a place to stay because of traveling medical professionals, et cetera, et cetera. And after COVID ended, when things started to open up, as you know, travel came back tenfold. I mean, extremely high. That's when the entire Airbnb boom happened, right? Everybody and their mom started talking about Airbnb, the new business, right? The Rob Builts of the world came out. He started promoting it. And, all the influencers started talking about it. And everybody and their mom got into Airbnbs, which is why now we're having the Airbnb bust, the bubble, right? Not everybody's making money now that the market is now back to pre-COVID numbers and even lower. So
Oh,
a lot
wow.
of people that got in, they're losing their shirt, right? And now there's blood on the streets, but opportunity, because a lot of people that don't know how to manage and run and how to take care of these opportunities don't know what they're doing. And so that's what happened, man, during COVID. And unfortunately, that building that I had to get out of, he couldn't pay his mortgage and people weren't paying him. I got the opportunity to leave, which was great. The guy was like, "Look, dude, just pick up your shit and go, and I'll let you go without any repercussions, and you can keep all the money you owe us." And to me, that was a no-brainer. I was saving almost 160 grand.
That's insane.
Other people stayed in the building. I don't know what happened with them, but I picked up and left, which is the best decision I could have ever done, because it allowed me to open up all the units that I opened during the big boom where all that money came in and all that travel happened, which is what allowed me to scale my business significantly.
Right. So you pivoted and you kept moving forward. Whereas people now are not pivoting. They're losing their shirt and then they're looking to something else. They're looking to some external source. Maybe it's Rafa. Rafa, hey, I can't figure out how to rent my Airbnb. I can't figure out how to make money. So instead of going internally like you did and saying, I need to figure this out, I need to do something, I need to take action, whether it's building more relationships, leveraging, making calls, door knocking, whatever it is, I need to do something. Whereas people are like, okay, somebody come help me with this. So there's obviously a huge opportunity, but what does that say about the people now versus what you had to do when things got really tough?
Well, I think, that's the entrepreneur mentality and the mindset. We have to solve problems and we have to
Right.
figure it out at all costs because other people are relying on us, right? Most people, the Airbnb operators that got interested to get into it because they heard some influencer talk about it on YouTube about how great Airbnb was, they don't have the capacity to try to figure things out on their own, or don't have the knowledge, or don't have the time. They were doing it, on their off time in hopes. And look, there's nothing wrong with it. Everybody tries out to get that financial freedom. But I think learning how to solve those problems and pivoting and getting in at the right numbers and running your numbers correctly, I think that's a big part of it. That's why I'm changing now. Like, my strategy is no longer arbitrage and no longer short-term rentals, and even midterm rentals are dying out, right? Everybody's like talking about midterm rentals. Only a very niche market in midterm rentals are working, which is like the insurance companies, the direct to, business to business relationships. That's why my boy Jesse does so well, because he's a genius at it, right?
Yeah.
But you can't just put, like, I don't do midterm rentals because I don't invest the time on that, right? But people expect other experts to bail them out, as when you're an entrepreneur, you have to figure it out no matter what.
Right. Dude. And that's what makes you successful. That's what makes people like us successful. I wouldn't say that I'm an entrepreneur by birth. I was not born an entrepreneur. And I wouldn't say that I'm an entrepreneur now. I would say I have entrepreneurial traits, things that I've learned. I've realized that my life is better through business than it is through working for somebody else. More opportunities come my way because I operate in a business. I just the other day, we bought a 6-unit building. It's completely vacant. We started demo. We started getting our contractor in there. So we got a dumpster and we're moving stuff. This is a very, very simple, low level task. However, I met scrappers, I met roofers, I met window people, I met all kinds of people because they saw that someone was taking action. Not only that, I got my nephew out there to do some work. I got my niece out there to do some work. And the value that came from the conversations while we were tearing up these apartments is an opportunity that would have never existed had I had to go to work. Yeah. Just yesterday, we actually moved the time of this call from yesterday to today because I had an opportunity to take my sister and sit with her for 8 hours at her cancer treatment. Where are the opportunities that are coming from 9 to 5? They're just not there. So I have entrepreneurial traits that I've implemented in my life because it will serve me better. I'll make more money. I'll be happier, be able to provide and receive more opportunities. But dude, you being a relationship guy, and basically what I just said, all of that revolves around relationships. That's what this is all about. Relationships are the spice of life. And honestly, I can't think of many other people that I know that do relationship better than you. So talk to me about some of the networking. Talk to me about some of the things that you've done in order to keep your business alive, in order to make your life more enjoyable, and all the things that come along with that.
Yeah, dude. I mean, there's nothing better in life than relationships, man. I thrive off relationships, and it's engraved deep, deep in the back of my mind. Like, I was born with a twin brother, so I've always had a relationship from the moment before I was even born, and I cannot be by myself. And therefore, that drives me to meet people, right? It drives me to talk to people. It drives me to conversate with people. I want to know people. I want to get to know what they're about, who they are. Are they good? Are they bad? Are they lost? Are they confused? Are they worth the time? Are they not worth the time? I thrive on people. And so before I knew what I know now, my biggest thing was how, when I started becoming really popular with what I know, it started with how can I help people? I just was putting my head down and learning and learning and learning and learning. And then one day I helped the right person. Somebody asked the right question and I just poured into him. I said, "Yeah, dude, I'll help you." And I started helping and it happened to be the right person. And I was like, okay, nothing came out of it, right? I wasn't expecting anything out of it, but something major came out of it, right? I got featured on Bigger Pockets, not expecting that whatsoever. I was just
Mm.
helping someone along,
And
right?
what is Bigger Pockets?
Bigger Pockets is the probably the world's number one real estate podcast right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's got to be the number one world biggest
And
podcast. Back in the day,
probably
it was
the
just
world's
podcasts.
largest real estate investing networking platform as
Yeah,
well.
now it is. Yes, yeah. When I started listening to it, it was just a podcast. Now it's like a platform. They do events. They got the giant YouTube channel. They got speakers. I mean, it's massive now in comparison to what it was back then. And so I learned everything from Bigger Pockets, and to be featured on it to me was like, whoa, right? And it wasn't even the main one. I was on the rookie podcast with my buddy Tony, and then they put me on the main one as a rookie takeover, which kind of the second pivot of my entire life was where I decided, hey, you know what? I need to be able to get comfortable outside my own skin. I was awkward, dude. I wasn't good at talking. I still get nervous. Like when I talk on stage, when I talk to people in front of people, I get nervous. But I had to get comfortable doing these things. And that's when I started really networking. Before I got into short-term rentals, I never networked once, right? Let's take it back to that. My first networking meetup is where I told you that I pivoted back to short-term rentals and I said, hey, I'm gonna start going to more of these events.
Right.
And at around the time, the big hot thing was Clubhouse, and those were meetups, but virtual meetups. We would meet with a bunch of people, and then people saw somebody asked me a question, and I answered it right, and they started inviting me into every single one of their rooms. You know, these rooms were hosting thousands of people throughout the day for a couple hours, and so then I started becoming the short-term rental expert in those rooms, and then I started meeting the right people, and then once COVID ended, those people invited me to speak at events. And then, I mean, that's when I got invited to, that's when I met Tony on Clubhouse. He asked me a question, I answered. He invited me to Bigger Pockets. And so I started to just pour into people because I was like, hey, I need people to do short term rentals the right way. And I know, why not? Let's help, right? That was my entire mentality behind it. And it blew up, right? My social media blew up, my DMs blew up, my networking blew up. Everybody's inviting me to a bunch of different places, opportunities are pouring in, people want to invest with me. It was just crazy. And so it was more than I can handle, to be honest with you. I probably burned a couple relationships because I never responded or I left people hanging, which, you know, if you're listening to this, I apologize if I did that because it wasn't intentional. But then I started doing the actual networking. I decided, hey, you know, before COVID, I was very complacent and comfortable. I don't even remember where I had that like light bulb moment, but I remember thinking, dude, I thought I was crushing it. And now I'm around these guys that own thousands. And actually, I remember when it was, I heard Tim Brott speak at Steve Rosenberg's mastermind that I was in. It was a $50 a month mastermind. They just met up on a Zoom call once a week. And I was like, oh, I like Steve Rosenberg. He's part of Bigger Pockets. He's an intelligent dude. He's got a good mindset. I can learn from him. I joined. I'm paying $50. It's inexpensive. Before I knew what actually investing in yourself was, I'm thinking, why would anybody pay $50 for this? But I said, fuck it, I'm going to join. And then Tim Brott spoke and he's like, oh, you know, I got this high level mastermind, commercial real estate and commercial empire and this and that. And so I was like, and then I really resonated with what he had to say. I loved the way he carried himself, the way he spoke. And I was like, I'm going to give this thing a shot. And I ended up joining his mastermind, which, you know, is a high level mastermind. And then I go into it and now I see these dudes that I own thousands of doors. And my biggest problem is their regular, you know, 10 a.m. on Tuesday. And they don't
Mm.
even bat an eye. And I'm like, wait a second. That's when it clicked. I was like, I need to be around these people so that
Right.
I need to stop worrying about the bullshit and focus on what really matters. Now, I tell people it's inevitable. It just rubs off on you. I am who I am today because I'm around the people that poured into me, but because now I know what the possibilities are. If I see someone next to me that owns 5,000 doors and my biggest problem, like my biggest hurdle is just something that they can solve with just one conversation, I'm like, that's who I need to be around every
Boom.
single freaking day of my life
That's magic.
because it doesn't matter anymore. That's not a problem anymore. It's a phone call solution or someone to guide me in the right way. And it's inevitable. It will rub off on you I mean, there's no, it's inevitable. It will happen. Something that they're doing is gonna rub off on you, and you're gonna use it, run with it, say it, speak it, act on it, do it. It doesn't matter. It's gonna happen. And so I got into networking hard. That's when I started really getting into the whole piece. And then I started pouring into people in that group and pouring to people outside of that group. And then the relationships and the partnerships just started coming in. People started seeing that I was genuine. You know, it was awesome, dude. When Nick and Austin called me to offer me the hotel, I met them at the Mastermind in Denver, what, 2 years ago, right? And so they asked me a couple short-term rental questions. I answered them. It was great. It was literally a 5-minute conversation. They went their own way. And then I ran into Austin again later, had a drink with them, and that was it. That was the end of it. And then they asked around about me. You know how cool it was when they said, "Hey, we vetted you." Austin brought it up, and he's like, "Hey, yeah, we vetted you," and everybody had nothing but good things to say about you. In a group like that, when I thought
Yeah.
I was nobody, I didn't
Right.
own a single piece of real estate. But everybody's like, "Dude, Rafa, he's a good dude. He's a good dude." You know, Rafa, and I'm like, "Holy shit!" Like, you know how good that felt. So in my head, I'm like, "Dude, now my entire thing is how can I lead with value? I don't care if anything comes out of it, and if it does, great." Let me tell you, it's came back 100 times over. Everything I own now is because of people that I've helped out.
And it's crazy because when you described when you first start, when you had those 18 arbitrage units and you kicked your feet up, you played Call of Duty, you just kind of like nobody around me is doing anything close to what I'm doing. You thought you were the man.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get into a room where there's people who are doing things at a way higher level. But it wasn't an intimidation thing. It was, I need to be around these people because I also want to operate at that level. And we get to help each other. We give hand ups. Hey, come get up to my level because, dude, I see that you're a genuine dude. I see that you're somebody who cares about people. You care about business, or you do what you say you're going to do. And life is generally better in these circles. And dude,
It is.
it's crazy because in one moment I'm the king of the world. Nothing can touch me. And then you get smacked in the mouth. You got to figure it out and you go to other people who have been there. They've done it. And you can take their experience, just like you said, one conversation. I had one conversation with this person because they have 20 to 30 years of experience, or they've been through this one specific thing and it's the fix that I need. And boom, transition your business. Boom, 10x your income. Boom, transition from now I was super stressed and I was thinking about quitting. And now I have an opportunity that's not only going to double my business, but now I feel better about it too. It's like, that's the thing. It's like, it's not just the increase in the bottom line, it's enjoying it more. You mentioned that earlier, which is like, I still want to retire and sit on a beach and travel and do all the things that you want to do, but you want to enjoy it and do it with people that you do business with, people that you do life with. And man, there's no other opportunity in the world to do things like this when you work for somebody else, at least in my personal opinion.
No, you're right. 100%. I've never heard of anybody being able to do so. They have to go out and do it on their own on the side or end up doing it on their own altogether. When I joined Legacy for the first time, I was like, man, I don't know shit in comparison to these people, right? Yeah, I have a couple of short-term rentals. You know, it was a lot. It's not no small feat. I'm not shooting myself here and saying that my business sucks, but I was like, I don't own a single piece of property. I'm literally not like, there's no security here. I don't know anything. And it forced me to learn and grow and do more. And dude, just the other day, a buddy of mine from Legacy called me and asked me for advice. I look up to this guy and he called me and asked me for advice. And I was like, whoa, like that was like really cool because I'm like, man, like I'm so glad I'm able to help people like that now because they've helped me more in more ways that they know. Right. And I was like, wow, this is badass. And, being around these people and just adding value, everybody sees it. Everybody sees it. And it's not something that I'm like doing on purpose or intentional. It's just the way
Right.
I am. I just want to be able to help people. And now because I'm around those people, I've met more people who've helped me grow to the level that I'm at now. Now I'm just doing fun, big things. Dude, look, I want to do anything that's fun. Like everybody goes, oh, what's your goal? You want to buy 100 properties? I don't care. If I buy one, I'll be happy as long as I enjoyed that process.
Right.
Doesn't matter to me.
That's what it should be about. I mean, there will be stressors because of the
Oh
things
yeah.
that you might not have necessarily chosen, but it's what you said, lead with value. And you walked into a room where you didn't own a single property, but everybody else did. But you have a unique value. You have something that other people don't, whatever that is, probably multiple things. You have something that I bring to the table that the other people don't have. I have gifts, talents, and abilities that God has already placed in my heart that I can bring. For me, it's relationships. I love. I'm very similar to you. I love building out good relationships. For me, it's also stepping on stage to do the emceeing. Not many people. I mean, obviously, nobody has done that in that group, right? So that's a very unique thing that I offer, and now it's a unique value proposition. Not necessarily to leverage relationships, because I think that's how we get a little lost in all this. It's like, go leverage those relationships. Go leverage. Now it's just, I'm just pulling a lever here. Now it's just, oh, I only use people because I want to get what I want. But when you genuinely want to help people and do life with good people, that's when leveraging those relationships actually just means we're doing life together. We're just helping each other out. I think we've really gotten deep into the weeds. Like, relationships is a really big thing that I'm hearing people talk about, but they're talking about it from a selfish manner instead of just, hey man, go out and help people with whatever it is that you offer. And dude, and one of the other things you mentioned was you got comfortable speaking. You got comfortable with things that you felt awkward about. You got comfortable with things that you didn't really like doing, but you honed the skill. And dude, one of my biggest things is like, learn how to speak. If you can communicate an idea well, it doesn't matter what setting you're in, people are going to pay attention. And it seems like you've done that.
Well, it's a work in progress. It's still challenging. I still get extremely nervous. I don't know if you noticed the legacy, just to ask that question. I was like, my voice was all shaky. It was so embarrassing. I still get nervous when all eyes are on me. But it's something that I do like. I enjoy it, and I only do it if I can help somebody. If I can't provide value and in a way that I can actually give a message that's going to add value, I'd rather not do it. I don't do it for clout. I don't care about clout, dude. I don't care about getting my name out there. It's helped me a ton. The social media thing's only because I need to have, like, what's the word I'm looking for? I need to have
A track
credibility.
record,
No, yeah,
resume.
credibility. Yes, correct. Otherwise, I would never do social media. I can care less. I'm not selling a course. I'm not. I canceled my course. I closed it down. I don't want to do coaching. I put out content to help people. To help people. Speaking on stages isn't because I want people to be like, oh, you know, Rafa clout. Like, no, it doesn't affect me in any way. It's almost like I do it because I can add value, and I know that it gives me credibility, and I can work with someone in the future where they go, hey, I remember him. He knows what the hell he's doing. Let's do something with him.
Mm.
Right. And then I can build a relationship. It's the credibility piece. It's almost like if we talk about the same way of money, like I'm not money driven at all. I mean, obviously if you offer $1 million for a project or something, I'm gonna take it. But like I'm not really like money driven. I don't do things for money. I do it because it's a necessity, but I do things that I enjoy doing only. And that goes with the speaking. I don't do it for clout. I do it because I enjoy doing it and I can help people doing it. Same concept. But I
And
do
that,
like it, man. It's a work in progress.
yeah, and that comes off, man, because people won't remember what you say, people won't remember what you do, but they will remember how you made them feel. And if
Correct.
you are genuinely putting people first ahead of yourself, wanting to help out, it's going to come across. And dude, opportunities are going to come, and good people are going to come into your sphere of influence, and everybody's going to get elevated from that scenario. But man, I really enjoyed this conversation, dude, and I'm so grateful that you came on. I mean, if you had something like from your business experience, and I know we just went really deep into relationships, but if you could give somebody one tip that would potentially change their trajectory, whether it's relationships, whether it's starting a business, whatever it is, what would that advice be?
I'll tell you what it was for me, and anybody else probably be the same, but there's two parts to it. It's speed of implementation, but even bigger than that, it's being around people that are doing more than you.
Mm,
Nothing kills your success more than being complacent and being around people doing less than you. Nothing. Right? If you're around people that are doing 100 times better than you, again, it's inevitable. And if you take what they do and you use speed of implementation and you implement it, again, it's inevitable. There's no other way but up. There's no option. Like it's inevitable, literally inevitable. It's not like you're gonna go home and be lazy when you just saw someone make $1 million deal and they taught you how to do it. Oh,
Mm.
that was great. Let me go home and play PlayStation. No, you're gonna be like, holy shit, I want that. And you're gonna
It,
go home and you're probably gonna make a phone call, or you're gonna do some research, or you're gonna study something, it's gonna teach you something new, and you're gonna be at that level soon enough. It's inevitable.
this in the speed of implementation.
Mhm.
Man, you are the average of the 5 people that you share the most time with. And it seems like you're a living example of that. So, dude, thank you so much for coming on the show, dropping some value bombs.